For the past 75 years, NATO has been protecting Europe and America was behind NATO. But now, with Donald Trump's arrival, everything is about to change. Donald Trump has openly stated that America should separate from NATO because now there's no need. After the heated debate between Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky, all the European leaders' sleep are gone. Germany's new chancellor has also said that we need independence from America and that NATO should end very soon. Will it happen? The million-dollar question is, if the United States separates from NATO, can Europe protect itself from Russia? In a press conference, when Trump asked the UK Prime Minister if the UK could fight Russia without the United States, there was no response except laughter.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves? Well.
But is it really true that even together, the UK, Germany and France cannot build such a strong army that they do not need America? The most important question is what impact leaving NATO will have on America. For many years, America and NATO have conducted operations in other countries together, whether it is Afghanistan, Iraq or even Libya. America has put NATO forward in every war. So if America separates from NATO, is it powerful enough to fight anyone alone? And the important question is that if America leaves NATO, won't China take advantage of this? Similarly, America's entire strategy for taking control of the Arctic depends on NATO. NATO's what will happen to it after breaking. In today's video, we are going to talk about the downfall of the world's largest military alliance. A downfall that will change the entire world order and perhaps bring the world back to the stage it was at after World War II. Let's first understand how and why NATO was formed and how it became so dependent on the United States. Actually, after World War II, Europe was quite weak and the Soviet Union was rapidly advancing towards Europe. In such a situation, to stop the Soviet Union, on the 4th of April 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or in short form, NATO was formed. The organization's sole goal was that if any one member country is attacked, all will unite to defend it. America, by leading this organization, was providing military leadership, nuclear protection, and financial support. During the Cold War, NATO became even more important, and to protect against the Soviet Union, America included West Germany. It began to establish its permanent military bases in Italy and the UK. As time passed, many European countries reduced their military spending and started to rely on American protection. In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, many people thought that perhaps NATO was no longer needed. But instead of breaking up, NATO began to expand. Basically, many Eastern European countries that were previously under Soviet control now wanted to join NATO. They feared that Russia might take over them again, and then in 1999, with Poland, Hungary and the Czech Republic joining NATO, NATO got closer to Russia. Came in. By 2004, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and many other countries also became members of NATO, and NATO reached right up to Russia's border. For Russia, this was a direct threat, and it accused the West of promising after the Cold War that they would not NATO will expand further. Despite this allegation, in 2008, NATO promised Ukraine and Georgia that they could also join NATO in the future. Seeing NATO getting so close, Russia got furious and attacked Georgia in the same year. This was a sign that Russia would no longer tolerate NATO's further expansion. In 2014, Russia also seized Crimea. In response, NATO began deploying more troops and missile systems in Eastern Europe. And behind all this was the United States, which was providing the most military funding and supplying weapons. Then, during Barack Obama's era, the United States tried to expand NATO without provoking Russia. Expand? Obama did increase NATO's army in Eastern Europe, but he also assured Russia that Ukraine would not be included in NATO. However, after Joe Biden became president in 2021, America's approach changed once again. America openly began to support Ukraine, and billions of dollars in military started sending aid as well. During this time, Finland and Sweden also applied for NATO membership in the year 2022. Seeing NATO expand like this made Russia very angry, and in February 2022, it launched a full-scale attack on Ukraine. This attack completely changed NATO's role. Now, NATO was not just a defense alliance, but was directly supplying weapons and money to Ukraine in this war, and it had become the biggest conflict in NATO's history. Now, despite being so powerful and large, NATO is heavily dependent on American leadership, military funding, and strength. For the context, Many European countries, such as Germany and France, had already reduced their military budgets after the Cold War because they believed the United States was there to protect them. Now, America not only provides funding but also has its proper presence in Europe, has a strong military presence as well. According to the 2023 stats, 100,000 American troops are present in NATO countries and Germany. America also has permanent bases in Italy, Poland, and the UK. Similarly, America supplies NATO countries with state-of-the-art weapons. These include advanced missile defense systems like Patriot and Aegis Ashore, which keep European countries safe from potential missile attacks. In addition, America supplies military jets like F-35, F-16, and F-15 to NATO countries. Speaking of nuclear support, according to some experts, the United States has 100 nuclear bombs in NATO countries such as Germany, is in Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. Similarly, America also helps the NATO army track enemy movements and intercept their communication through spy satellites and drones. Yes. But now, with Donald Trump becoming president, a big change is coming because Donald Trump has criticized NATO many times and has accused European countries of not making their share of the contribution. Trump has recently said that if NATO countries do not increase their military spending, America will no longer defend them further, will not do so, and might even leave NATO. And if the United States separates from NATO, 70% of NATO's defense spending will end, and along with these, NATO will also have to part with American nuclear bombs and highly trained soldiers and weapons which have protected it for many years. Was done. So if we exclude America's defense spending and only look at Europe's defense spending, in 2024, the total defense spending of all of Europe was $457 billion. Whereas if we calculate Russia's defense spending after taking into account purchasing power parity, Russia's defense budget is $461.6 billion. So this is the first time that Russia is spending more on its military than Europe. And the most important thing is that the Russian army follows a single command and language, while European armies are divided among many commanders and languages. Similarly, to make up for the shortfall of 100,000 American soldiers, military power will have to be increased significantly. At least around 50 brigades will need to be added, which will include thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery. Noto Nabonesa, on paper, Europe has approximately 1,450,000 soldiers, which is a huge number, but the actual reality is very different. These soldiers are divided among 28 countries, each following its own leadership and command structure. Now, where the American army operates under a single command, European armies operate under their own country's military generals. So this army does not have a unified strategy or plan. Each country has its own weapons and their own chain of command. That is why 100,000 American troops are more powerful than 1,400,000 European troops because they follow a single command and strategy. Another example of this logistical gap is that if Russia attacks the Baltic, NATO would need 1,400 tanks, 2,000 vehicles, and 700 artillery units to stop Russia, and this number is so large that France, Germany, Italy, and the UK together do not have such a large force can create. Similarly, if America removes its 6 nuclear bases present in Europe, Europe will become vulnerable. This is why French President Macron and Germany's new Chancellor Friedrich Merz are considering enhancing nuclear capabilities, and there is also the possibility that France's nuclear bombs will be stored in Germany to create a European nuclear shield that America if there is no need. But it takes a lot of time to build nuclear facilities, and in the short term, Europe cannot replace the security provided by America. If NATO is to replace America, it would need to create a special European army, but this would require years of investment, political agreements, and structural reforms. Now let's talk about what effect leaving NATO will have on the United States. For the past 76 years, the United States has been using NATO as a tool, and through it, its military power has projected across the whole world, whether it was the Afghan War, Iraq War, or Libya War. NATO forces have always fully supported America. NATO has shared the burden of these wars through its soldiers, air support, and logistics. If America leaves NATO, it will not have Europe's support in future wars, and this was quite significant support. Like in the Afghan War, the UK, Germany, and France supplied thousands of their soldiers and weapons. If America had fought that war alone, it would have needed many more soldiers and money needed. Another major advantage of NATO is the network of military bases and supply routes that